You're watching Talking Points, a focus on the political scene in Lubbock and across the South Plains.
Welcome back. Here's a look at some of the political headlines of the past week. Lubbock Representative Dustin Burrows has been on Facebook a lot lately, talking about cutting property taxes at the local level. He'll be back on Facebook Live Tuesday at 2, talking about different ways to pay for the maintenance and operation costs of local school districts with Dale Kramer, head of the Texas Taxpayers and Research Association. The M&O, as it's known, makes up a big part of the property tax bill that schools pass along to you. The new Quinnipiac, Texas poll is out. Not too many surprises. The only real eye-opener came when folks were asked if they approve of the job being done by Texas Senator John Cornyn. Only 37% approval compared to just 36% disapproval. Yikes. Both major political parties have been encouraging Texas protesters to also vote this year. In fact, that sentiment has been a prominent feature of this week's virtual Texas Democratic Convention. KAMC's Maggie Glenn tells us about one of their panels focusing on earning the African-American vote.
The party needs to spend time investing, energizing, activating, and inspiring our community to turn out to the polls.
Democrats this week discussed various ways to motivate Black Texans to participate in upcoming elections.
So there's definitely a correlation and a connection. March is an expression of the frustration, but voting is the path to achieving the solution in terms of picking people who you want to help you put the solutions into place.
That's something Republicans can agree on.
You know, we have an opportunity to elect judges that are going to be able to help us see the kind of changes we want to see in our community. We have the opportunity to elect legislators that are going to write legislation that will help us see the changes we want to see in our community. And our ancestors fought for us to have the right to vote.
Both parties also say it's important for voters to educate themselves on other policies and form their own opinions.
The reality is African Americans are not all the same. And we're all looking for some different things that we want to see happen in our nation.
Now we're hearing an even louder outcry that the real focus is not just economics, it's not just health, it's not just criminal justice, but it's really around the bigger issue of justice itself to make sure America lives up to its ideal.
In Austin, Maggie Glenn, KAMC News.
All right, Maggie, thank you so much. Let's spend 5 good minutes now with attorney and former Lubbock Mayor David Langston. Good to see you.
It was great to be with you, Brian.
I know you were able to take part in the virtual state convention here this past week. How active have you been in the in-person state conventions here over the past couple decades?
Well, I've been to several state conventions. More recently, I've gone to state conventions because I am on the Rural Caucus, the State Rural Caucus. I serve as vice chair of what is called the Non-Urban Rural Caucus, which focuses on primarily rural issues, agriculture policy, things that are important for rural communities.
Was the virtual experience enough, you think, to get people motivated and interested to get involved in campaigns, to vote, to get involved with policy, things like that? I really think that it was actually more personal, and you found yourself to be more effective in a virtual setting than you do, for example, sitting in just in an auditorium and listening to it. Interesting.
For example, I served on the platform committee. There's 32 people that served on that committee, and we met Saturday for 13 hours in a Zoom meeting, going over every aspect of the Democratic state platform and making, amendments. I think there were like 208 amendments or something like that.
It's a lot of little details, I think, in wording, right? And little stuff.
Right. There's an advisory committee that the officers of the state party appoint, and then that advisory committee comes up with the draft of the platform, and then at the convention, you run for and become elected as what is called a permanent member of the platform committee.
Wow. So give me some platform issues that were kind of the hot topics and things that might be of interest to some folks. Right?
Well, for example, on the rural issues, we were talking about the fact that right now it's more important than ever that rural communities have good, high-speed internet.
Oh, yeah.
That it be accessible to businesses, that it be accessible to students, teachers, everyone really needs to have access to high-speed internet right now. So one of the things we talked about is electric telephone cooperatives receiving grants and loans in order to make that happen, you know, to have the fiber optics that are equally accessible in communities such as Muleshoe and Pampa and those communities as, for example, in Lubbock and Amarillo.
Right. You know, and you were also part of, I know, of the specific panel talking about building a stronger Democratic presence and base in some of our rural areas. What's the state of that now here in this very conservative part of the world?
Well, let me tell you very frankly that we're not doing very good as a Democratic Party in rural areas when it comes to voter turnout. We don't have very good turnouts. And therefore, you get an election like we had the last cycle when Beto was running against Ted Cruz. You know, Beto won all of the urban areas, but he lost all of the rural areas by 60 to 70% or worse.
Right.
Well, you know, you run up the score in the rural communities, it's hard to make it up in the urban areas when you're that far behind. And so that's one of the things that we're working on as, for example, a non-urban rural caucus, is to focus on those issues that we believe are important for rural communities and that might attract more Democratic voters.
I'm a farmer, say, in Floyd County, and I've sort of always voted conservatively. What is it that you could tell me to make me at least start thinking about maybe I need to look at some different candidates?
Well, let's talk about health care for rural communities. You know, we've had 18 rural hospitals in the state of Texas that have failed. And we don't have a health care system that is conducive to people that live in rural areas. It's important for farmers to have good health. You know, there is a propensity to have, with all the mechanization we have now, to have very serious injuries. In some places, you know, you have to drive 30, 40, 100 miles before you even can get to a medical facility. Healthcare is one of them. Another thing, though, is ag policy itself. We need to have a stable agriculture policy that enables farmers to receive a fair return on their products, recover the costs of production, plus a reasonable profit. And you take, for example, the fact that the cotton farmers, which are important around here, had worked for 2-3 decades building up a relationship and supply chains for cotton to get to China. Well, you have a tariff war, and who takes it on the chin is the farmers. Now, they've been able to have an administration that has been able, without the permission of Congress, without any input from Congress, to provide what is called the market facilitation program that's made up some of that loss. But ag policy is another issue that would be very important.
Some topics you don't always hear about from a lot of Democratic candidates. You know David Langston. He's a former mayor of Lubbock and attorney here in town. Come back soon and let's talk more about things going on.
Good.
Thanks, sir.